I'm Jasmine from the Future Blue Youth Council, and I'm joined by Catarina and Shay and Dakota, who are all members of Heirs to Our Oceans. Catarina is a 14-year-old global activist and surfer originally from Salvador in Brazil. And she's part of the petition for children versus the climate crisis, and she spoke at the UN with 15 other children from all over the world. It's very cool. She's also part of the collective SOS Ballet and Cantata. I'm sorry, I probably totally ruined that pronunciation. Heirs to Our Oceans, Green Kingdom, and was a Young Eco Woman 2020 ambassador. She spoke at the opening of the Ocean Decade at the Brave New Ocean event, and as a High Seas Youth Ambassador. Recently, she's been developing a project called Ecos Club Sustentare. I'm sorry again, Catarina, which will focus on environmental education and sustainability. And then Shay is a high school junior from the San Francisco Bay Area who's been working as a member of Heirs to Our Oceans Pescadero chapter for 3 years, working on many projects, including cleanups, presentations, and community outreach, and initiatives to reduce single-use plastic in her school and community. She's attended multiple H2O SEALs, which is the Summit for Empowerment, Action, and Leadership, and has been a part of the RAISE, which is the Regenerative Agriculture and Indigenous Systems for Our Environment initiative for 2 years, where they're currently working on a comprehensive research paper about regenerative agriculture reviewed by scientists, farmers, and Indigenous leaders. Also so cool. And Dakota is an independent learner in the San Francisco Bay Area, and she started Heirs to Our Oceans with her family and her sibling Charlie back in 2016. So Heirs to Our Oceans, which all of these guys are a part of, is committed to empowering, educating, and connecting youth around the protection of the ocean and waterways and climate action for the next generation and future generations to come from all over the world. So they have members from, I think, like basically almost every continent now, and it's very cool, and there's all sorts of initiatives. So I'll put in the chat where you can check that out. But to start, it'd be great if you guys could all kind of introduce yourselves and say what your favorite marine mammal is.
I don't know who would like to start. Okay, I'll just go for it. Hi everyone, my name's Dakota Peebler. You can call me Coda. Super honored to be here. Like Jasmine said, I'm a co-founder of Heirs to Our Oceans. And I'd have to say my favorite marine animal or marine mammal is the sea otter, for sure.
Hey, I'm Shay. I'm a member of Heirs to Our Oceans from the Pescadero chapter. And let me think. I'm not sure what my favorite marine mammal is. My favorite marine animal, I'm really enjoying a lot of different types of shrimp right now. I really like shrimp at the moment. I'm not sure what my favorite mammal would be, though.
Shrimp is a very good choice, though. Especially the ones that can see all the cool colors, the mantis shrimp.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm Catarina Lorenzo. I'm 14 from Brazil. And like my favorite mammal, I think would be dolphin. I really like sharks, but I prefer dolphins. But I think my favorite animal is a turtle. Yeah, animal specifically. But mammal, it is a dolphin.
Those are all such good choices. I know I'm a big fan of whales, but like honestly, I don't know if I could choose. All right, so what originally interested you guys in getting actively involved in ocean advocacy and conservation? And then also, how would you recommend youth get started with it?
I can start really fast. Personally for me, I've always just had a really deep passion for anything ocean related. And it just came from a deep love for the ocean and this yearning to explore and to learn more. And, I was always so fascinated with this beautiful, plane of blue that many people don't learn about and don't explore. And I just wanted to learn more. And the more I learned, the more I saw the issues that it was facing. And I wanted to take on those issues. And I think to anyone who is interested in getting started in that space is really you have to find your passion because that's where it all comes from. That's where the movement comes from. It comes from a passion. So whether that is shrimp, I don't know, shrimp or whales or dolphins, find that passion because it will really, really help you move forward. I don't know, Shay or Catarina, if you have your own stories.
So my story is that I can say since I'm little, I grew up on nature, on the ocean. My father, he's a surfer. I have a surfer family where we have more than 40 surfers. So I remember me with 2 years old getting my first wave alone. And since then, I'm constantly on the ocean and I'm constantly seeing the changes. I have already felt a consequence of climate change. I felt the change that the ocean passed through, which was the warming of the ocean and the coral reefs bleaching. So all this, not only my connection to the ocean because of the way I grew up, but also these issues that I see the ocean passes. It encourages me to take action because I realize that if if I'm not the one who's going to take action, who is? So not only me, but I think many other youths are taking action because we shouldn't be doing this. Like we shouldn't be the ones there having to ask governments to take action, ask the old generation to take action. So we're doing this because we're realizing we are having to or they will not do it. And yeah, my main reason it's due to these changes that I'm realizing because of this connection I have to the ocean, because the ocean, it speaks a language and it's asking for help. I hear the call of the ocean. And for those who are starting, adding up to what Dakota said, there are many organizations and ways that are here to help you. Like Heirs To Our Oceans have so many summits that are here to help you. The webinars itself, like this one, of you getting educated, I think it's already a very good start. And yeah, like Dakota said, find your passion and go after it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Catarina, for what you said. That was really impactful, I think. For me, it was actually me just getting interested because of other people and what they told me and what I started learning. I grew up on the coast of California, like a lot of nature. I was around the ocean a lot. I was in the forest a lot. I've always considered myself to be very connected to nature, but I never had a very thorough education about ocean issues. And what actually happened was that Dakota and her sibling Charlie came and did a presentation at my school because they are both nearby. And they were doing a presentation on behalf of this organization that was at the time relatively new, Heirs To Our Oceans. And during that presentation, they talked about Heirs To Our Oceans. And they also talked about why heirs. Why do we have this organization? Because of what is happening to the oceans. And a lot of it I'd never heard of. I had no idea about coral bleaching or ocean warming, like some of the things you were mentioning, Catarina. I had just never even really thought about it because I didn't spend as much time in the ocean as you did, and I didn't really see it because I wasn't looking for it. And then I learned it and I was like, oh, that's terrifying. Whoa. And so I was like, I've got to do something about this. I became involved in Heirs To Our Oceans, and it became this positive feedback loop where the more I learned, the more I would want to take action. And the more action I took, the more presentations and summits and community action and whatever, the more I would learn, So it was like, and then once I had learned all this information, I started to see it. I started to see things happening on my coastline and, in the forest even, because there is this interconnection between the land ecosystems and ocean ecosystems that previously I hadn't noticed really because I wasn't looking for it and I wasn't thinking about it. But the more I learned and the more I knew and the more aware I became of what's actually happening to our planet as a global ecosystem, it was like the more passion I felt and the more I was able to channel other interests I have in life into this cause of fighting to protect the ocean.
Yeah, I really like what you mentioned, Shay. And you know, as like Shay was mentioning, when we came and we talked to her as Heirs to Our Oceans, you know, this is when Heirs to Our Oceans was just like a few homeschool kids who were just interested in the ocean and we wanted to make an impact. And at that time, we had no idea where we were gonna go. We just knew that we had this passion and we had this drive and we had a goal. And at the time, that goal was to spread awareness about, you know, issues like plastics. And from that, it's become a whole different thing with, you know, international youth teaching each other and becoming empowered and being connected in, you know, tackling this big global crisis that we're all going to be facing for many years. So yeah, I think it's really about finding your drive, finding your goal, and discovering your passion.
Those are all amazing thoughts that definitely have been echoed by the other members of the Futurable Youth Council and talking to them. I know the feeling of feeling like we shouldn't be the ones to be taking on the role of having to do this conservation work, but also wanting to because we want to preserve the oceans. We want to make sure it stays healthy. And if not us, then who? Is one that is echoed a lot, that I feel super deeply personally. Kind of to build on that question, I know, Dakota, you mentioned that you kind of originally as a homeschool student started learning about the ocean and then did school presentations. But with all of you, what was the first, after you learned about it, what was the like one first step that you did to kind of get this journey of like advocacy going? Because I know once you get started, it snowballs and you start learning about different opportunities and you start meeting people. But that first step is always so hard, breaking from going from learning and feeling helpless to, okay, I'm going to actually do something. What's it going to be? So I'd love to hear what you three did originally to get going.
Started
Do you want to
last
start,
time.
Dakota?
Oh, no, I started last time. I was gonna say.
Okay. I was very lucky because the first things that I had the opportunity to do were with other members of Heirs and with Dakota, you know, and Charlie and others, when I was still just starting out as an heir and as an activist. It was, I'm trying to remember the very first thing I ever did. You know what I did, actually? Heirs to Our Oceans had a trip where they took people from my school and a couple of other heirs from the founding chapter kayaking with sea otters. And Dakota, you might have heard her mention that her favorite marine mammal is sea otters. She knows a ton about sea otters. So she was teaching us, like while we were kayaking, she was like, oh, this is a sea otter behavior. You can see this, you can identify this about the sea otters. This is how they are keystone species. This is how they interact with the marsh, right? And I was just learning all this stuff. I was like, whoa, this is so cool. I'm fascinated. I am learning from somebody my age who is also so passionate about this stuff. And I'm out seeing it, experiencing it. It's not from a textbook. It's not something that's abstract. And that was the first thing that I ever did with Heirs. And then after that, the way I learned to sort of speak about it and channel it and give presentations, etc., was by initially shadowing, I suppose, other people, other heirs who were doing similar things. Like I would go to an event or go to a presentation that they were doing and I'd be a part of it and contribute what I was comfortable with. And I just sort of learned by doing, I guess. It was like I would do more and more and more as I got more and more comfortable, and I would learn more and more and more as I became more and more involved. And I was super lucky because I didn't start out alone. It was like I had the heirs and I had people with me who were new, and I also had people with me who were more experienced and were happy to like share their knowledge and share their experiences with me.
Learning by doing is such a great way to do things. I love that.
Go for
Go,
it.
Dakota, you
Go
go.
for it. Okay. I'm just gonna say really fast. When we started Heirs to Our Oceans, our first thing was the networking. Like you want to make connections. You want to like go to those events. hand out your business card. We immediately started making these little business cards that had, our contact information, our website, get a website up, and just really get your name out there. Tell people who you are, spread the word, go to those events as much as possible, get on a stage wherever you can. We had times where we'd go up and we'd ask, can we present? And through those networking events, when we were little, I was around 10 or 11, from that, people know who you are, and they're going to come to you and they're going to ask, hey, can we get you to present at this event? And then, your movement's getting bigger and bigger, and you're spreading the message more. I remember I went to a international sea otter conference when I was the only kid there, and I asked if I could present. I was given a short slot, and I was terrified. Oh my gosh, this was a room full of sea otter experts who I admired. I was so nervous. Oh my gosh, but I went up there and for around 5 minutes just talked about really what Heirs To Our Oceans was, and I was invited back the following conference for a full hour to talk about what I do. So it's really just like getting your voice out there. It's a really, really important step in finding your movement and creating that initiative.
Yeah, so for me, I can say I also had the opportunity to grow up and be born, I can say, on a fight. Because when I was born, my grandparents and my parents, they were already on a fight to protect a local forest in my city. So I grew up on this fight. We already went for strikes in front of the mayor's house. I think it's like that. And so I went to, for example, not only to protect the forest, but also there was a local river. So I grew up on this local fights. But I think like when I got the opportunity to talk to the world, I got this opportunity through Heirs To Our Oceans. So I'm very grateful for it. And yeah, I was so nervous, but so nervous. But I can say that on the moment I stepped on the stage, I took a breath and I just spoke the truth, because I knew that what I was speaking was right. It was the truth, and I just spoke from my heart. And I had the opportunity for having help. I had this opportunity of having people to know that I have people holding my back, which is my family, and also the Heirs To Our Oceans team and all their youth there with me. So that is very helpful. I can say, and I can be very grateful for that. But that's how I took my first step, let's say. But I was like already on this fight since I'm little. And yeah, I think it went from a local fight to a world, a global fight. And that's something that I think you should think about, because it started to protect a river, the strike for a river on my city, where almost nobody knows about it. And today I'm like talking to world leaders, sending messages to them, saying them to take action. I'm talking to youth from all around the world and taking action globally. So just take that first step in locally, it's already in action for the globally. Yeah, so yes.
Yes. Thank you so much for saying that. And honestly, something that both of you mentioned that I just want to reiterate, because it really resonated with me, because both of you mentioned being nervous. Facts. That is so, so true. And yeah, that's really something I think that anybody should expect when they're starting out at anything, but especially at something like this that involves really just putting yourself out there and speaking to people. It's kind of scary. And like what you were saying, Catarina, is like, it's, if you're speaking the truth, right? It's like, why you're there, what you're fighting for, what you're trying to protect. And that has also for me been where I draw the confidence and the conviction to overcome that nervousness, which is still there for me, even as I've been doing this for a couple of years now.
No,
Yeah, I was just going to point that out too. Like the nervousness to take that first step, especially, it's totally there. It's totally normal. Everybody has it. But doing it anyways and putting yourself out there anyways, knowing that you may always be a little bit nervous, but it will get easier and it's definitely worth it. And getting yourself out there, it's so important. Yeah.
And the more you go out, the more you realize that people really want to hear from us. They want us to get up there. They want us to take the mic, because what we're saying, like Catarina said, like Shay said, is super important because we're the greatest stakeholders in what's happening to the world. We're the ones who are going to be here for another 80 years. It's time that we take the lead in what's happening. So yeah, I think both Shay and Catarina made some great points.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want you guys here speaking about your experience. So I'm sure that everybody else does too. So I think it was all of you actually mentioned how having heirs was important to kind of support you. But when and how do you feel most supported by other people, specifically adults, when you're doing this type of thing?
I feel like, Catarina, do you want to say something? Go for it.
No, you can speak. I can go after.
Okay, I was just gonna say, I feel like when you're doing this work as a youth in any sort of, conservation space, you have to be really careful with the fact that sometimes adults will say, "Good job," clap for you, and no action will be taken. There's a lot of that. There is a lot of, "Oh, I'm glad these kids are taking on these challenges, but I don't want to worry about that. I just want to listen to their presentations and forget about it." And I think when I feel most supported is when you see actual action being taken from adults who are listening to the voices of the youth, to the voices of the underserved, and really taking it and processing it and walking the talk, basically. I feel like that's when I feel most supported. And it's really important because you'll deal with, for people who are starting initiatives, it's something that you will deal with a lot, and it's something to be on the lookout for.
Yes, so that's the first thing that I would say. Like, I would feel supported if they listened to us, first of all, but later, after they listen to us, they put it into action. So not only the listening, but the taking action, which for me, I see it's very hard. Like, something that I always see, it's that it's very easy for you to say, or to say you're listening, to say you'll do it. But on the time for the people to do it, I don't see many people going there. And it's something that I think, as Dakota said, we should be careful with. That's a reason why we have to be sometimes very strong and being there, like after them saying, "You have to take action, you have to take action, you have to take action," because if we do not, they're just saying they're gonna do, and then they're just gonna leave it there. But I feel very grateful for them, not only when they take action, but also that's a way of supporting, but also like when they spread opportunity for us. I think it's very I'm very grateful when they help us get our voices spread out and help our action go and spreading out. So it's another way that I think they help us and support us.
I think this is a really good question too, because there are so many ways that this is relevant, like both with personal interaction with adults that are just like in my life or in the lives of any youth. And there's also the kind of broader, more sometimes abstract, I guess, support that comes from like leaders and legislators and scientists and adults who have some degree of power or voice or platform. So it can, I think, to me, like what kind of support I feel from adults varies depending on what their role is like in my life or how I'm interacting with them. I remember one of the things that question immediately made me think of is just a story that was a personal experience for me, just with my grandmother, where I remember she'd seen a talk that I'd done, and some other heirs had been in there as well. And I don't remember if it was me or someone else, but single-use plastic pollution was a big part of that talk. And single-use plastic pollution is an issue that many people personally have some capacity to take action on. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people are able to take actions to reduce their single-use plastic use. And I remember she just came up to me last time I saw her, and she was like, hey, I saw this talk that you did like 2 years ago. And I was like, oh, really? That's so cool. Thanks, Grandma. She's like, you and your friends were amazing. And she's like, ever since then, I have tried so hard to cut down on my single-use plastic. And I was in her house. She was showing, she's like, look, I use all these different things now. I don't use this anymore. And she was so excited. And she also had started to care about the issue. And I was like, wow, that's really amazing. That was one of the most kind of impactful things, because even though it's a small thing, you know, single-use plastic, one person reducing single-use plastic seems like a small thing, but I was like, oh, you know, I actually impacted her. And she's also, of course, it's amazing when she tells me I did a good job and that she's proud of me, but it's like she's taking it to heart. She cares. She's listening to what we've said, you know, and that felt really good. And, you know, there's also like the broader kind of support, like when you see, you know, an adult who's a legislator, who has a platform, stand up and put themselves out in support of some initiative or some cause that the youth have been speaking really passionately about. And you know, they've heard you. They're like, okay, I'm actually going to put myself out there and take this on because I know that it's the right thing to do. And I know that this is what the youth care about. So it can vary, but it's always, I think it always does really come down to like, have they heard? Are they listening? Are they, you know, taking action in whatever way they can?
Yeah, and as a youth in the conservation space, it is absolutely okay to be resolute in your public speaking. You are not there to make adults feel inspired. This is not what you're doing. You're there because, you know, you're talking about your future, you know? And so it's really, really important to stay true to your goals and stay true to your message and what you want. Because, you know, this is your future. So yeah, it's totally okay to be firm and resolute about the state of the world.
Yeah, seeing people take action, I think, is such a validating and important feeling and thing to happen when you're doing this. It's like, okay, I am actually making a difference. This is changing something, even if it's small, and that's just the best feeling. So you guys all talked about how this type of thing is kind of what keeps you going, but is there anything else that keeps you going and makes you want to continue this work? Because some days I know it can feel like a lot. So what kind of makes sure that you continue?
Maybe I can start on this one. I think there are many things that sometimes, like when people see so many problems, they want to run away, or like they feel scared. And I can say it's very normal to feel scared. It's very normal sometimes to feel anxiety, anxiety. But for me, when I see a challenge or a problem, I'm a person who likes to see it and then go like right into it to see all the connections this problem has and to understand the problem and then to go there and solve it. So for me, another thing that always keeps me going, adding up to what I said of this, when I see a problem, I like to go there and solve it, is that I know that always in the end, something that like on the trips I did in life, in hearing my mother's story and my mother doing so many things, my family and friends, I saw that in the end, things really work out. And personal experiences proves that to me. like on the moment, sometimes it feels so much a big thing, a gigantic thing, and you're like, oh my God, what should I do? And then you start to lose control. That moment we have to stop, to breathe, to to calm down, start to solve the problem, and understand that in the final step, in that final end, we will reach that goal that we want to reach. Like it will be everything okay. And first of all, like I heard that when I was little, I did not believe it. But today, like seeing everything, life proved that to me, that it's true. So that's something that always keeps me going. And one more thing is hope. I never let my hope die. It's something that we say in my family, is that the last thing to die is hope. So I always have hope for my future generation. I still hope, and that hope of having this rightful future, that I can still have it, that hope of seeing a sustainable planet, of seeing a humanity living in balance with the nature and the oceans, with people having equal rights. This hope makes me always want to continue more and more and continue to fight. Yes, thank you.
I'd say I agree with everything Catarina said. Oh my gosh, 100%. And then something that keeps me going is knowing that I'm not alone. You know, people like Shay, people like Catarina, people like you, Jasmine, you know, we're all youth who are fighting for the same thing. And so none of us are alone in the work that we do. And this is one of the reasons why I love Heirs to Our Oceans so much, is because it's really centered around and rooted on community and global community. And, you know, this ocean that we're fighting for connects all of us, no matter where we live. And it's something that keeps me going, is knowing that, you know, I have a beautiful family of people from around the world who are working towards the same goal and fighting for the same things I am. And that's something that gives me hope and keeps me going, for sure.
Gosh, I feel like both of you just summed that up, and I'm like, well, yeah, that was what both of you said was really beautiful. Thank you for those answers. I think definitely the sense of community, the hope, you know, the motivation to just take on the challenge and tackle the problem, like what both of you said, is definitely a big part of it in the more abstract sense, for me. And then I think, honestly, a lot of what really keeps me as an individual going is personal experiences of connecting with the planet that I care so much about, and that I'm doing a lot of this for. Just, I mean, I just really, really, really love being outside, you know? I just love it. I always used to, even before I was like in Heirs and before I was aware of all these issues, when I'm still a kid, but when I was a little kid, I would always feel like if I was upset, I would just go outside and I would sit down and I would look at a couple of trees and I'd be like, why am I upset? Like, there's no reason to be upset. Like, this is great. Like, I'm happy. It was always just calming to me. And I feel like something that I've discovered I'm really passionate about recently is growing food, like gardening or farming in a way that's actually sustainable and symbiotic, and just like putting my hands in the soil, you know, seeing a plant that I grew that's beneficial to native pollinators is like so nice. It just makes me feel really, really good. And if I'm like just personally stressed out and overwhelmed, maintaining and nurturing my relationship with all these other organisms that humanity is, like Catarina said, out of balance with and struggling to coexist with right now, not only reminds me of all the beautiful forms of life on this planet that it's so important to preserve, but it just grounds me as a person. It's like, oh, I feel better. You know, I can go back into it now. I can maintain my momentum and maintain my focus.
I want to add something about what Shay said. Like about when she was a kid, when she looks at the trees, something that always also keeps me going is sometimes I doubt like myself or things, and then I look outside, especially where I live very close to the forest, or when I'm in the ocean, or sometimes even when I'm surfing, and like I start to doubt myself, I go outside and get into go surfing, or I get into nature and go take a walk, or I just look outside and I say like, this is what I'm fighting for. It's worth it, you know. It's worth it, all this challenges, because there is still nature to protect, there's still biodiversity to protect, and of course there are things that we'll have still to solve, but there are things that we just need to protect it and leave it how it is. And so when I look at it, or I am in nature, I realize that. Yes.
Yeah, you guys really knocked that question out of the park. I think you hit everything that I could possibly have thought of for that one. It was so good. My next question, you guys kind of already answered this one, but it is, how do you kind of do any self-care or regenerate when the climate anxiety feels like a lot? This type of work is exhausting. Being a teenager is exhausting on its own, but on top of that, it's so prone to just exhausting you. So you guys mentioned, going outside and connecting with other people, but I'd love to know if there's anything else you want to add for that question.
I think when you're learning and talking about and discussing all of these challenges, you just start to see the problems, and the desertification and the ocean acidification, and the horrible issues with typhoons and changes in weather patterns and things like that. But there's still such beautiful life on Earth, and we almost forget about it sometimes. So like Catarina was saying, get out and remind yourself there's still so much beauty on our planet, and that's what we're fighting for. And it really, really helps to refresh and to remember why you're fighting for it, and remember what you're fighting for. Because if when you're immersed in your work and you're inside and you're working hard and you're doing all these incredible things, you start to forget what it is you're even fighting for, and you really got to go out and remind yourself. That's what always helps me. So it's kind of going off of what Catarina says.
I guess I can go. I would say, okay, I don't want this to not answer the question, because I feel like this is almost not a good answer to this question. But it's something that I think is interesting about Heirs to Our Oceans. Working with youth, I think, automatically lends itself to a sense of fun that is oftentimes not present in rooms full of adults. And this isn't necessarily self-care as, like whatever term you want to use, like rejuvenating yourself, or like this isn't necessarily self-care as something separate from this kind of work. But this is, I think, a way to keep it from becoming overwhelming, is to maintain to some degree a sense of joy, a sense of fun, a sense of celebration. And this is something that I think Heirs has oftentimes been able to cultivate naturally, really successfully, just because it's a bunch of kids. It's like we want to, socialize and hang out and have fun. So it's like we, of course, are doing really serious work, and there's times when it's really hard, and we'll share stories with each other about all the different ways that we might have been impacted by horrific things like forest fires and pollution and awful stuff that has impacted so many other people on this planet. And somehow, like, even as we're sharing those experiences with each other, afterwards we'll come together and hang out and watch a movie and laugh and dance. Or like at our SEAL Summit, our Summit for Empowerment, Action, and Leadership, it's been for the past 3 years, I think 4 years, gosh, it's been a bunch of different kids from all over the world. So there'll be this amazing environment that's created where everybody's sharing like stories and songs and food and all these different things from like their respective cultures and their respective countries, that we can all just like appreciate our similarities and our differences and our diversity and our commonality and like all these amazing things about each other, just in like a fun, casual, harmonious way. And I always remember like going to a really intense high level events and being in rooms full of scientists and legislators. It's so serious and it's so intense. But I'll go back to the hotel room and I'll be with, Dakota, and we'll like lie on the bed and hang out and talk for an hour and laugh. You know what I mean? And it's just like, you feel better, you can decompress. So I don't know if this is a good answer to the question, and that I'm not really talking about like separate self-care, but I feel like that's really important. And I feel like it's one of the good things, the really, really good things about working with youth and in an environment that has a lot of youth, is it's like, we're totally like able to take on this serious work, but we can still have fun with each other and like socialize and interact and connect in an authentic way that is just nice.
100% agree with that. Everything Shay just said, I agree with.
I can say that they nailed it. Like, just nailed it. And I can say that everything, like, make their words mine, because basically what they said was something that I do, and it helps me a lot. Yeah, I think what they said was what I would say. Basically, going in nature, I think, especially like being there, something that I like to do is hug the trees. It helps me a lot. I like to hug the tree and just put my head there and just relax. Um, and being a little bit more specific, especially like when I'm like that, sorry, I like to take walks like in nature itself, just go outside, put my shoes on, and let that peace that nature has, from and let that come inside me, because I think that on this hard moments, this anxieties that we have, this anxieties, um I think we need to solve it from the inside. We need this peace to come from the inside, and I think that's something that nature always gives us. When I'm stressed out, sometimes I get my surfboard and go surfing. I don't have an ocean to go. I don't know. I'll go drink water. I will go, just meditate, maybe watch an ocean movie, or something related. But I really like to do something related to nature, because nature always passes me, and I think many other people, this internal peace that I think it solves a lot of things. Yeah.
I'm probably going to go back and rewatch this panel after it's put up so that I can like remember some of what you said, Catarina, and maybe quote you on that with your permission. Because like, wow.
Thinking that exact same thing. I need to meditate more. I feel like I need to hug some trees now. I feel like I need to go do that.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna try and get outside after this panel, after those inspiring little speeches from you all. I know I've been getting outside a lot in the past year, but I miss connecting with people. That portion of the self-care I'm totally looking forward to soon, hopefully, for me. So I'm gonna kind of bring it all the way back to when you guys were talking about how you got started, and really just throwing yourself out there. How would you suggest that people throw themselves out there, especially like kind of what media platform? Do you have any, social media is good for connecting people around the world, but the how and the which one, do you guys have any suggestions for that?
I think Discord is a good one. It's a good one that I see Heirs To Our Oceans use. I would say a lot of social media. Like, I think social media is a great way for us to connect. Even though if used correctly, it can turn into an awesome tool. It's just the way you use it, I think it's like that for many things in life. So I would say social media is a great way. I connect a lot to social media, and yeah, I'd say Discord is also a good one to connect with.
Yeah, that's those are great options, and I completely agree. To add on, I'd say what Heirs to Our Oceans did is our first media outlet was really like find events that have PR. Find events that will be filming you during your presentation. Get on and get those interviews going, and then get on social media, but do it the right way. Find your messaging, because anyone can get on social media. Anyone, if you have the technology, but really like be very purposeful with what you're posting in the initiative that you're doing. That's definitely what I would say in the work that you do. But for Heirs to Our Oceans, we definitely started with going to events that we knew would be more broadcasted and people would hear about it, to get the movement kind of expanding, so people could hear about us, hear about our message, pretty much.
I think what both of you brought up in your own words was about using social media like with purpose and using it the right way so that it was a positive tool. I think that is a very, very important thing, not just for this kind of work, but in any instance, right? Like social media can have a very negative impact or a very positive impact, depending on how it's used. And I think I'll say almost any social media platform, just for the sake of, not overgeneralizing, but I think almost any social media platform can probably be used positively. If you are intentional and purposeful and you know the kind of people you want to connect with and you know what you want your message to be. So I think like for any individual to start, it's just whatever capacity that they're comfortable with, whatever's accessible to them, can probably be turned into a tool for global outreach and for positive change. I would also like to add another aspect of it, just as somebody who I personally, I'm not a big social media person, like just in my own like life as an individual, right? Like I don't really like it, I don't enjoy being on it that much. And it's been actually, I think, really good growth for me, learning how it can be used through Heirs, because I've seen some really, really cool and positive stuff happen on social media with Heirs to Our Oceans that I've been a part of and that I've just witnessed, that I've been like, oh, this is super cool. This is how you can use social media. This is how it can be like this really great way to facilitate global community. That's kind of opened my mind a little bit and also made me able to actually use social media and not know how it works. But I would like to say that even for individuals who aren't that comfortable on social media, who might not have it or who might not like it, just for, whatever their reasons might be, because it isn't for everybody, just as an individual necessarily, you can still put yourself out there in other ways. And I think a really good way to do that is a lot of times there are local initiatives, like in towns or in communities or whatever, that have PR or that have outreach that isn't necessarily social media focused. You know what I mean? Like, for example, if you're in, like, I'm from a small town, so when I was in a small town, we have a local radio station. A lot of times people put up a bunch of posters and we hold little town meetings for things like that. And when there was ever an initiative that we Heirs wanted to do in the town, we could literally talk to people in the town, put up posters, like get on the local radio, show up at town meetings and speak a little bit and educate ourselves about other initiatives going on in the community that we just wanted to be a part of that we might not have known about otherwise. So I think putting yourself out there, it can also be really good to start locally and get comfortable and learn about what's going on in your area. Like what you were saying, Catarina, is you had this fight that you were a part of that was, local and specific to your community. And then you took that passion and you took like the skills you had from that and now you're speaking to world leaders, right? And it's like you can put yourself out there in your local setting and whatever local initiative you have, and then you can keep learning and keep growing and eventually start that global outreach, you know, whether that's through social media or through anything else.
Yeah, those definitely fantastic points. I love those. They're all like just everything you need to know, basically. The thing that I did, I thought I'd add this in because so I'm also from like a small town, and at the beginning when I was getting like kind of starting to get involved in this type of thing, I didn't have anyone I could like work on an initiative with, and I didn't want to do something completely on my own because that was like I had no idea what I was doing, and that was a little too much. But don't be afraid to like reach out. Like I emailed Heirs and I emailed Bowseat, and that's how I got involved. And also it's okay to like reach out to people on social media or via email and say, hey, you're doing this really cool thing. Can I learn more about it? Can I be involved? And the worst thing they do is say no, and some will say no, and that's okay. But sometimes even if they say no, you can get connections from that. You can find out about other things just through email lists, through websites, whatever. So don't be afraid to put yourself out there in that capacity, digitally as well as in person, especially if there aren't as many in-person events near you.
That's actually such a great point. And it reminds me of literally in 2016 when Heirs to Our Oceans started, we got emailed by this girl named Chloe who really wanted to be a part of Heirs. And she joined, has been a part of Heirs since the beginning, is now in college, and has been all over the world presenting with us. And it was just because she emailed us when we were started and said, hey, this is something I want to be a part of. And it goes to show that like things can really happen. Connections can seriously be made just through a single email. I think that's a really great point, Jasmine.
Yeah, you're cool and I wanna help. Should not be undervalued, I think. So my last question for you all this afternoon is, what is bringing you joy right now? Just one thing that has kind of made your day. I'd love to hear about it.
I think I can start.
Go ahead.
I think something that is bringing me joy today was being able to see a little bit of California with one of my best friends and meeting Shay and Dakota in person for the first time. Like
Catarina's living with us right now.
yes, like I met them so many times through Zoom, and now I'm meeting them in person, and that brought me a lot of joy.
That's definitely like the best reason to have joy, is being able to see people in person for the first time.
I gotta say, seeing Catarina got here like 30 minutes before this panel, and we're so excited. Shay's also here. We're all in the same house having a party. But yeah, that made me so happy. But
COVID conscious, don't worry. COVID.
Yeah, exactly. We're all in very separate parts now. No, but yeah, it brings me joy to see the people, because we all met so many different people during the COVID lockdown in Heirs, you know, met Jasmine through Heirs on Zoom. And so to be able to meet them in person has been so exciting and has brought me lots of joy. So I'm going to have to agree with Catarina on that one. I don't know if you have anything else to add, Shay.
I mean, I'll share something different, but also same. Like I haven't seen Dakota in over a year. I haven't ever met Catarina off of Zoom, and it's been really amazing to just like meet you. And I'm sure it's for all of us, it's been a long time since we've seen people that we were interacting with virtually before. So that's been really cool. And then I guess something in my day that brought me joy was I just saw my cousin's garden for the first time since she told me that she'd planted it, and she loves it, and she's been nurturing the heck out of it, and it's really beautiful. And she was so excited to show me her garden. She was like, look at how big all the plants are. And I was like, they're so big. And seeing how happy she was and how genuinely good all of her plants looked put me in a really good mood. So
honestly, I love all your comments, Shay, about food, because I feel
me
like
and
in the
food.
world there's such like a disconnect from food and from like the food that we eat, and I mean that has come from years of colonization. I could go into that, but that'd be a long conversation. But I just love that, like Shay, you shared about really connecting with the soil, connecting with food. If you would have that opportunity to really like get in the mud, connect with your food. I think that's great. I love that.
That's so lovely. I mean, just to repeat what Dakota said, I love that too. So this is the end of our webinar for today. But before we go, so you guys talked a lot about talking about social media, getting your message out there, connecting with other youth, and there's two fantastic places where you can do that. The first is these guys and I are all a part of, which is Heirs To Our Oceans, and we will put the link like with this video when it gets posted. It's also in the chat, but it's h2oo.org. And then the second place is the Future Blue Youth Council Fellowship. So we have up on our page, we are going to have more webinars. This one, obviously, we have a past one talking about all of the details of the program. There'll be future ones, some with upcoming ones. We have ones talking about the grant details, so everything you need to know when you apply for the grant. We have ones talking with other Future Blue Youth Council members talking about their past projects, which are all super cool. And then we also have toolkits on how to run a social media account, how to create social media content. We have one on coming up with ideas for your project and how to set achievable goals. And then ones that will be coming out soon are, I think we have a fundraising one and a website one in the works. So keep an eye out for those. We're all very excited. And that again will be next to in the description. And also you're probably watching this on the Future Blue Youth Council website. But again, bowseat.org is where you can find all of that. And again, thank you so much to you three for joining us today for this. It's been so much fun. And I love chatting with you and learning more about you. It has just been fantastic. And I know that everybody watching will enjoy this as much as I will. As I do, I guess. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having us. I had a ball. And I think that this program and this grant is really, really going to help initiatives be started. You have it all laid out. And I think that incredible things will arise from this. So thank you so much for having us on.
That's the goal. Yeah. Hopefully incredible things will arise.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you. Thank you, Jasmine, and everyone who is watching. I'm very grateful to be here for the opportunity to be here with Dakota and Shay speaking to incredible people. And yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure.